Hello everybody, my name is Lucas and I'm Android malware analyst at ESET, and today I would like to share with you our research regarding security and privacy issues discovered in Android stalkerware. If you thought that social media knows everything about you, you were right. However, today I will tell you that there are apps that know even more. Would you like to know more? Have you ever been feeling like spied upon? Have you ever encountered strange behavior of your smartphone? Have you ever had a feeling that you know that somebody knows, but you don't know how they know? They might know it because they installed a stalkerware software in your smartphone. So what is stalkerware? Simply put, it's a spying app. Stalker needs to have physical access to the victim's smartphone, unlocks it, sideload the application, set up the app, allow all the necessary permissions, and well, based on these permissions, you can tell what are the capabilities of the software. Afterwards, stalkerware is hidden from the victim's view and in impersonating applications such as settings. Where these apps could be downloaded from? Besides shady sites, apparently, they were available even on Google Play, imposing as kid or employee spies, resulting in fact that it was not that difficult to install them whatsoever. Precisely, they were installed over 140,000 times from Google Play Store alone. Number speaks for itself. Based on our data from our Android client devices, as you can see in a slide now, these apps have become more and more popular in the last couple of years. In 2019, we detected 5 times more installs as in previous year. Last year, detection increased up to 48%. We see the popularity still on the rise. So, how can we make sure no one is looking over our shoulder? This problem has been discussed, and luckily for us, it has been solved. How? Either by manually or automatically, using trustworthy security solution that detects, informs, removes our uninvited guest. However, its enormous popularity made us wonder and worry about one more problem. Who else might be watching? Since stalkerware gathers more private data about their victims than any other app you have installed in your smartphone right now. I'm talking about privacy and security of victim information that might be at risk, since such software can access almost all of them. When we picked one of the most popular social media app permissions to compare them with stalkerware, important thing, social media app requests these permissions only when necessary. It means when a user wants to take a picture, there is a request to allow permission either one time during using the application or a lifetime of the app. Contrary, stalkerware, in order to work properly, all the permissions needs to be checked. As a result, the stalker has full access all the time. Let's take a look. The phone on the right belongs to the attacker. The attacker is not a stalker. It's a person that misuses security issues found in stalkerware. Victim and stalker are not aware of the attacker or these actions. The phone on the left belongs to the victim. The attacker sends text message to a victim. Victim receives text message. Stalkerware will process it, and that would trigger a phone call back to the attacker, instantly opening microphone spying opportunities without a victim's knowledge. Please pay attention to upcoming slides, where we will deep dive and share with you our research. We will focus on stalkerware security, that will be followed by forensic analysis, and we will close all that with responsible disclosure to affected vendors. We gathered stalkerware apps from various sources, starting with stalkerware indicators of compromise. At that time, there was available around 40 stalkerwares. Some of them were offline. I'll explain that later on. Then, based on the most prevalent, popular stalkerwares on infected devices on our clients. Then through paid advertisement, paid PR articles, Google search. And because of that, we gathered 101 information about mobile stalkerwares. However, mobile stalkerware is divided into two main platforms, iOS and Android. We focused only on Android. The reason is simple: market share and the easiness of side-loading apps. Comparing to iOS, device needs to be either jailbroken or stalker needs to have iCloud credentials. And there's one more reason. From all the analyzed apps, they provide solution for Android platform, but only something over 37% for iOS as well. So our plan was to analyze all these 101 stalkerwares. Unfortunately, 15 were offline, not available, most likely out of business. Their server or website was not available. Because of that, it was impossible for potential clients to download the app. We end up with analyzing 86 apps. How we did that? Using manual, static, and dynamic analysis to observe its behaviors and capabilities. Because of possible legal issues, we would like to state the fact that this is not a full penetration test. We focused on privacy, security issues with actual impact on their clients, victims, company. However, matter is really serious. There were some limitations that I would like to go through them first. Because we haven't paid for any of the software, we didn't want to support them. We were limited by the provided functionality of the app, as well as availability of the server, since server that is accessible only by stalker sends commands to stalker victim device that processes the commands, gathers data, and sends them back. And these data are then stored on the server. Still, we were able to fully test 72 apps. Only 14 were limited to static analysis only. Okay, so what were our findings? From 86 apps, we found security issues with a serious impact in 67% of analyzed apps. 33% were without serious security or privacy issue discovered. Altogether, we identified 158 exploitable issues in 58 apps, which stands for 67%. Now let's continue with the particular problems. Because of the limitations, we still could identify 158 issues, and right now I will go through the most prevalent one, which are such as leak on the network, leak on the device, leak on the server of the private information, sensitive information of the victim, possibility to manipulate the victim's data on the server, remotely control stalkerware victim device by text message, open directory leaks, account takeover, possibility to live stream from victim's smartphone. I prepared 2 more video demonstrations of exploiting some vulnerabilities. I will go through them briefly. Now, let's go through the most serious ones, starting with using unencrypted HTTP protocol. What does it mean? Every stalkerware once gathers all the data and needs to send them to the server, and on the server they are available for stalker. Problem is that the communication between the device and the server was not encrypted, not protected anyhow. This could be misused in a couple of ways. The first one, when stalker installs the stalkerware on a smartphone, he needs to create an account or log in. Because of that, the credentials are not anyhow additionally encrypted. They are sent as in plain text. And because of that, the attacker that is on the same network, on the same Wi-Fi, let's say, could intercept that communication, obtain the credentials, access the admin panel, and control the victim. Stalkerware could also update themselves or download additional components that are then triggered. These are components that are necessary to gather data from the victim. And because of no integrity check of downloaded binaries, the attacker, again, on the same network, same Wi-Fi, could replace the updates for the malicious apps and trigger remote code execution. The most common issue was leak of all the extracted victims' data. They were sent in plain text to server. There were text messages, call log history, contacts, browsing history, taken photos, screenshots, and many, many others. The impact of using unencrypted HTTP is simple. It's possible to take over account. As you saw, credentials are sent unprotected, unencrypted, possibility to trigger remote code execution, and stealing data that were uploaded by the victim to device, to smartphone, to server. From a leak on the network, move to leak on a device. It's a leaking of personally identifiable information on a smartphone. Let me tell you more. Since stalkerware gathers information about the victim, these data needs to be stored somewhere and then extracted to server. Problem is that these gathered data, which contains sensitive information, are stored on external media, which is accessible to all the apps installed on the device, with the proper permission, read-write storage. In one case, stalkerware would store admin token on external media, and by misusing this token, it was possible for attacker to get access to admin console and control the victim. Some of the stalkerware provided keylogger functionality, meaning they could log all user input from all apps. These keylogs, problem is, were stored on external media in text file, including sensitive information such as passwords and their apps. This was a result in taking over accounts or stealing credentials to accounts that does not belong to stalker, but to other apps from other contacts. The most frequently seen device leak was unprotected storing of external extracted data, such as recorded phone calls, taken photos, screenshots. In some cases, even calendar events, browsing history, contact list, phone number, and received text messages. The impact of a leak on a device is that any third-party app that is installed on a smartphone could, with read-write storage permission, access these files without proper permission. From device leak, move to leak on a server. User data leaks through open directories. There were available data such as victims' photos, recorded phone calls, details about the victim such as names, addresses, physical addresses, email addresses, text messages, social media messages. These data were accessible without any authentication for anyone. Let's head on to uploading victims' data to server before account is actually set up. I'll explain that in two scenarios, how this could be misused. The first one, stalkerware installs the app on a device, and after launch realizes he first needs to purchase. So he will remove the app and searches for another one. That maybe is for free. Unfortunately, the app already extracted from a device call log history, email address, and SMS messages, even though there was no license. Second case scenario, after license expires, and because of that, the stalker cannot access admin console and see the gathered data or send commands to victim. Stalkerware app that is installed on a smartphone could still extract personal information and send them to server, even though the license came to an end. We've seen this behavior in 15 cases. During analysis, we discovered and tested that manipulating the victim's data wasn't a problem. Many apps use for pairing device and a server account unique device ID, such as email number, Android ID, instead of using server-generated token. However, these IDs could be easily obtained, extracted by other apps installed on a smartphone. Two ways how to misuse that. The first one, the attacker on the same network, if data are uploaded over unencrypted HTTP, could manipulate, could fabricate with the data and upload custom text messages, custom photos, screenshots, communication, call log histories to frame a person, to frame a victim, or make her life a little bit more harder. Second example, apps installed on a smartphone could obtain the device ID, and by using the ID, they could upload custom fabricated tempered data to server for stalker to see. If there is no internet connection on the victim's smartphone, some of the stalkerware provided ability to receive text messages commands. However, not all of them verify if the command is received from stalker, and because of that, anyone could remotely control a victim's device. There are two things that are necessary. The first, we need to know the commands to send them. However, stalkerware vendors provided them on their website. The second one is to know a phone number of a victim where the attacker will send text message. And this could be, for example, one of the ways extracted by, again, app that is installed on a smartphone. One more example with sending SMS commands. The phone on the right belongs to the attacker. The phone on the left belongs to the victim. The attacker sends text message to victim. The victim receives text message, triggers and shares exact GPS location back to the attacker. And in this case, GPS needs to be enabled on a victim device. Let's continue with arbitrary components being available. Because of unprotected components, exported components, it is possible to trigger restricted stalkerware functionality. As a result, any application on the smartphone could, through stalkerware, take pictures, record calls, surrounding audio, record surrounding audio, take screenshots, wipe data, enable, disable GPS, reboot smartphone, etc. And afterwards, access these gathered files since they are stored on external media. What happens when spying ends? This is a photo taken by a stalkerware of my ceiling while it was lying next to me. Unfortunately, it is still stored and accessible on the server, even though the stalker, in this case me, removed data logs, unlinks smartphone, and removed full account. Besides my photos still being available on the server, there are also my call log history and text messages available for anyone without any authentication. In other case, data are not removed from server immediately when requested by stalker, but rather it takes 90 extra days to be deleted. Let's head to inner process communication leak. Let me quickly explain what does it mean. Android apps, as well as stalkerware, they have different components inside the apps which needs to communicate to each other to send and receive data. In case of stalkerware, it has enabled keylogger. One of the components is some spying or snooping on the all entered keys from other apps, and these keys are then sent to another component of the stalkerware. Problem is that sending these data was not only to the component that belonged to stalkerware, but was actually broadcasted to other apps installed on a smartphone. So any app that was listening on such activity could receive the key logs. As a result, every app could be a keylogger because of the stalkerware. Stalkerware having a not restricted access to admin panel or admin panel APIs that would partially allow to extract information about victims by having ID. This is necessary, and ID is in this case email number. There's one special functionality in the stalkerware which was actually powerful for the attacker, since there were scheduled reports defined in the application, and these scheduled reports could extract at some time all the call logs history and text messages sent and received. They were put to PDF file, and the PDF file was then sent to the email address of the stalker. For the attacker, once he has the email number and accesses the panel, he could replace the email address of the stalker for the address that belongs to the attacker, and then it would receive all these information on behalf of the stalker. Hard-coded secrets, it's not a token or password, as you might expect, rather just server links that are responsible for triggering a live stream. What is this all about? In app are hard-coded links that could, through server, trigger live stream from a particular device. The only thing that's necessary is device ID. But this device ID is stored on external shared media and accessible to apps that have a read-write storage permission. I will demonstrate that right now on the example, where on the left side is a victim's smartphone, and all the attacker needs are these 3 links. The first one is where the stream will be outputted. Necessary are only device IDs. And as you can see, stream is not enabled or active now. The attacker needs to make 2 requests to server with that ID to trigger or to make server send command to particular smartphone with this device ID to broadcast a live stream to that link. And right now, the attacker, without authorization, can see what is happening on the victim's smartphone. You can see video and audio. These were security issues identified on stalkerware apps. Now let's continue with a forensic analysis, because with successful forensics, it is possible to access internal data of a stalkerware app that contain or might contain email address of the stalker, some of them even credentials in plain text, what data were extracted from victim's smartphone and since when. So if victim would like to identify a stalker before uninstalling it, it would be possible with device forensics. Retrieving internal data from a stalker is possible or is necessary to have physical access to device, and is possible when app has one of the 2 flags enabled. Either it's debuggable or it allows to create backups. For 86 apps that we analyzed, 64% of these apps, it was possible to extract internal information that might contain information to identify a stalker. After finding the problems, the issues, we try to report them to affected vendors. We follow 90-day disclosure practice by contacting vendor up to 3 times. Either through email, we found on their website, creating support ticket if it was possible on the vendor side, or using combination of these if we haven't received a reply from first or second request. In 2 cases, we were not able to report these issues since it appeared to be that inbox of the vendor was full. And the second case was creating a ticket on their website would return always error, always some problem. As a result, from 58 apps with the security issues, we communicated with 22% of them. 12% of the stalkerware fixed the issues. 10% promised to fix the issues in a next release, but the release did not contain patched for these issues. And 77.6% have not replied directly to us, and these problems are still present in their stalkerware, in their apps. Because of that, we decided not to publish the full list where we connect all the problems, all the vulnerabilities to particular vendors, particular apps. Now we're heading to conclusion, but first, let me go through a compromise scenario, how it looks like from the attacker or the stalker position, and the victim, how to prevent victim device being compromised. Stalker needs to have physical access to a smartphone. it means it cannot be done remotely. It means the stalker needs to have a PIN to unlock a smartphone, download application, and set up account. These can be done within 2 minutes. How to prevent? Make sure to have a lock screen protection, ideally PIN. Don't share that PIN with anyone. And if you have any doubts that someone might enter your device, I advise you to install trustworthy security solution that will detect such malicious behavior and removes that for you. Based on what we have seen in the slides before, number of stalkerware app is increasing based on our data, for example. As you saw, stalkerware gathers more private information about their victims than any other app you have installed in your smartphone right now. Unfortunately, many of them contain security issues that could affect the victim or stalker. And another problem is that the vendors appears to be don't care about them, don't care about their client, don't care about fixing them, since only 12% of them actually fix these issues. How to apply these slides in your life? If you are a developer, make sure to follow OWSP rules, hire dedicated security person, go through a penetration test. For researchers, if you identify weak points, vulnerabilities in Android apps or other, even in stalkerware, please follow responsible disclosure period. For enterprise, make sure to enforce lock screen protection, PIN, lock screen or password protection, restrict your devices to download apps from third-party stores, and in a case some bad, shady apps slips through Play Store, make sure to create a whitelist. For anyone else, use a lock screen protection with strong PIN to restrict access to your smartphone by an authorized person. We would like to appeal to anyone who might be thinking of using such software to reconsider that. Using stalkerware to spy on your spouses, it's not just unethical, but it also reveals private and intimate information about them, but also about those who installed it and want to spy on their close ones. This year's RSA carries the symbol of resilience. To be resilient in cybersecurity, we need to join forces to fight cybersecurity threats, including stalkerware, to share and raise awareness to protect unaware and fragile victims. Thank you very much. Enjoy more resilient talks to come.